the system will start. Well, good morning, everyone. I've been asked to help run the meeting today since Mike Jones is on vacation. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we could first, do you have to take attendance, or do you go around?
No, I've already done that, thank you.
Okay. Look for the approval of the minutes from the May 24th meeting,
June 28th.
June 28th. I'm looking at the wrong one here, sorry. June 28th meeting.
I move.
Well, Mike Jones is not here to give the planning board liaison report. I don't know if anyone else has any comments about that. I haven't gotten anything. We can jump ahead to Mike Yeager's report on his meeting about invasive species ordinance proposal with the city solicitor. Want to update us?
Okay, I will update you. So I think, I don't recall, you may have all seen that I sent the document that has been prepared already. And as I suspected, the solicitor felt that it was probably more aggressive than we would ever get past city council from history. But so my request was, would you come back with something that is trying to accomplish what we want to accomplish, but we need to soften the tone, at least for now. I mean, we can probably get more aggressive later, but let's get something in the doors the way I always like to approach it. So he came back with something which I felt was still, it still had issues, and I didn't think it was going to make it past the council because it has the provisions of inspections of the property, which become a real issue. So what we did was somebody provided me with the different ordinances that have been passed in other towns. And the one that I read that I really liked was Point Pleasant Beach, their version. It had, I think, a lot of good stuff in it. I asked Chris to please take a look at that one and see if we couldn't incorporate the enforcement and who's going to be doing the inspection of the property. And so what it comes down to is the keys to his proposal is it obviously identifies all of the invasive plants. It's basically saying no new plantings, which I think is it's a must no matter what. There's no reason that we can't have a provision for no new plantings of invasive species. But the control of the existing growth, you might see it actually goes very much the same way as the Point Pleasant. And what we're saying is that we would really start wanting to control the invasive species that are going beyond the boundary of a resident's property. So if they want a mimosa, they have a mimosa tree in the backyard, and it's not invading the neighbor. Well, I think even the way it was written before, that's okay. We're not cutting down large trees, but when they die, that's it. That's good provision. But what this is saying is that even if somebody has bamboo in their backyard, some people like bamboo, but it can't go anywhere else. That's the problem. And I think we're going to hear from the Kings where it is it has gone someplace else, and that is a problem, and that person who has planted it and has not controlled it beyond their property is going to have to be responsible for it. And I think that's the way his version is written. Everybody might read this and they might want to see some additional tightening up, but I'm looking at this and what it says is, the interesting part is that even code enforcement is not going to drive around looking for violations in the front yards, but if a next-door neighbor has a problem, if they see it and they're concerned about it, they have the right to make code enforcement come out, evaluate it, and the ticketing and the demand to have the species, if not removed, certainly controlled and kept within the bounds of their property. So this addresses two of the issues that we think were a problem. One is having a lot of people going out and inspecting other people's yards, be it the front or backyard or whatever. And it also addresses, some people are going to have a problem with forcing people to just totally rip out plantings from the yard. But there are times when it's going to have to be done. And I think the King's story is sort of part of that. I'm not sure that we've really addressed the King's issue here. What it does say is that the person that planted the stuff is responsible for removing it, but it says the property owner. I don't know what you do in the case of their house where it's been drastically invaded. I think that, I might have to talk to the solicitor again and say, we need to tighten up on when the neighbor's invasive species invades the other neighbor's house, that there has to be consequences, and they have to help with the cleanup or pay for the cleanup or whatever. But other than that, this is something that we think we could get passed. If there's anything that seems like it's just not right for this commission, let me know, and I will take it back to Chris before we go before council. But personally, I'm ready to take something like this to council. I'm comfortable with it. I want you folks to be comfortable with it too, and hopefully, where do we go from here?
I think that we need to take what we have and take it before council and then work on other things later. I think there's no problem with this one. We need something.
I think that we need to get the camel's nose in the tent.
Exactly.
And this is what this will do.
And if we publicize it and if we do other things, you're right, it gets us started, and then we can work on these other little issues that we need to work on.
Yes.
With the Kings, are you talking about the inn here?
They're right there.
Yes, well,
Can we,
hi.
can we hear from the Kings? I'll have them sit here.
Would you like to?
I would love to.
Yeah.
I think we should give them a microphone and,
Well, let's get another chair and
Can sit here.
Yes, I do. Thank you for letting me speak before the committee. My name is Jeff King. My wife Allison and I have owned a property on 1131 Indiana Avenue for over 30 years, and we are full-time residents of Cape May for the last year and a half at that property. About 20 years ago, my neighbor planted bamboo along the border of our property, and within, I'd say, a year, it encroached onto our property, and this is between the two houses, so it's about a 20-foot long stretch. Since that time, it has gone all the way to the back of our property, so it's gone another 100 feet. It was 5 feet wide at one time, and my entire backyard, including underneath a paver patio and underneath a a small two-step porch that I have is totally filled with bamboo. So there's no place in my backyard that a sprig of bamboo doesn't come up once or twice a week, and if you cut the lawn, that maintains it. So far, yeah, in the front yard, it's the same.
Probably under your house.
It definitely is under the house, yeah. We came down before we lived here full-time a couple of years ago, came down on a Friday night, came in, and half of our power of the house was knocked out. And that was the bamboo had knocked the power. It's a single-story house, so it got tall enough that it had knocked off power to the house. So half of our house was without power, including the refrigerator and a few other things. And then that's where we made a decision that all the bamboo on our property is going to be cut down. So I took 50 to 60 truckloads of bamboo. I have a full-size Ford F-150. And over the course of the last 3 years, I've taken out probably 50 or 60 truckloads full of bamboo from my property.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Just cut it back, or have you actually tried to uproot it?
Trying to uproot it
notice the
was
dry.
impossible. I could cut it with if you got it close to the ground,
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the clumps, you could not
No.
get through it with an axe.
That's why I said tried.
Yeah, so I could cut it at the base with a chainsaw, but trying to dig it up was almost impossible. My wife contacted Cape May Bamboo to see what they could do as far as excavating that, because the only way to get rid of it is get it out from the roots. They gave us a ballpark estimate about $10,000 to do the backyard.
It would just come back again.
Yeah, and they would put down a barrier wall.
Okay.
But to do that for my backyard, I would have to remove the porch, I would have to remove all the pavers, and I'd have to remove all the vegetation, so that cost doesn't include basically removing everything and the cost of putting back shrubs, plants, flowers that we have in the backyard. So we've been dealing this for a long time, and for the last 2 or 3 years, it's been,
My question I have is that if this ordinance passes, it's not retroactive.
It is not. However, it will be retroactive in this respect. The guy that has bamboo in his yard right now absolutely must contain the spread of what he has there. So in terms of the barrier that has to be put up, even, if you have to dig down, put whatever in the ground to prevent the roots from spreading, he will be responsible for doing that immediately. And if he doesn't, then the Kings have the ability to contact code enforcement, say, I have this problem next door, they're not protecting the spread, and code enforcement will in fact come into play. And I believe we left some of the language in here, which it was going to require them to do it. If they don't, the city's going to do it, and they're going to pay.
So even though this is a problem that has occurred before this regulation would still be in effect in terms of that property owner being responsible?
Unfortunately, yeah, that's an area that I think really gets touchy, because
Yeah.
I know the way the law works today. I've gone through this. If my neighbor's tree falls on my house and on my fence and wrecks my yard, it's not his problem. It's my problem. The only way it's not my problem is if I write to him, if I make a formal request before the tree falls to say that it's dangerous, and if your tree falls on my property, that you'll be responsible. If you don't do that, then unfortunately, I, as the neighbor, am responsible for the cleanup. And I suspect, unless council decides to do something for the people that have problems this big, the way this law is written is it would just begin now. And yeah, unfortunately, the Kings are going to have to take care of the removal. But what we can be sure of is that there should be no further encroachment from the neighbor, and if there is, that neighbor will be responsible for any damage it caused.
Yeah, and part of my concern is, okay, it's spread from my neighbor, but it could spread from our property to the neighbor on the other side and the neighbor behind us.
Which it
Yeah,
will
and
or has.
then, yeah, so,
Sure.
Complications.
The problem with bamboo is it really doesn't respond to any poisons, and you know the poison I'm talking about. It just does not.
yeah, I tried to test that, and it was okay for a season.
Right.
Then it came back. It didn't matter.
But it's quite unhealthy for you also, so.
Yeah. Well, yes. I'm not suggesting that you use it because it doesn't work anyway.
Yeah,
But, I'm really sorry to hear that, but I don't know.
yeah.
I feel like, we can do what we can through regulation, through ordinances, and hopefully make an impact. But I also feel like your story needs to be told.
Yes.
And the only way to do that is, whether it's an article in the Star and Wave or something, people need to understand that, what's going on.
And I would hope that when, if you guys are okay, I can have Chris flesh this out. There's obviously more stuff has to be put in here. I will at least make it a discussion at, it won't be the next council meeting, which is this coming Tuesday, but I'll have it on the agenda for the following Tuesday.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And it'd be great if the Kings are available. I think that they should be telling their story to council,
Yeah, I would invite anybody to come to our house and just see what we're dealing with. And if you had an ordinance that said, if you have a 2-foot plant, I can guarantee you there isn't a week that goes by that I'm not cutting down something that's 2 or 3 feet. It just keeps coming up.
I absolutely agree with Gretchen that this needs to be maybe even more public than in a city council meeting. And as I informally suggested during the week, that we need to write an article anyway that explains why we are doing this and
Yes.
what some of the problems are. Is just, author it from the Environmental Commission and have it published
and
at some point,
we will need the right, I think you already may have some documentation on all the species that are should be banned from new plantings. And that information is going to have to be given to builders, landscapers, I think even real estate companies in town, everybody.
Everybody.
And actually, it should almost be a mailing to everybody in town because they may be redoing their backyard by themselves. We just want to make sure that this doesn't happen. But we have to spread the word on the no new plantings, make sure everybody is aware that this is against the law to do it.
Right.
Mrs. Hendricks, do you have a question?
Yes.
Yep.
This is but a small, Patricia Hendricks, 106 Trenton Avenue. This is but a small example of what's going on in the community. I like the idea of taking it back to council. Council has not had this in front of them with the Environmental Commission. Mike has done the liaison work. They need to flush it out with the Environmental Commission. The Environmental Commission meets once a month, and it goes back and forth and back and forth. Meanwhile, bamboo's eating them up. It's eating somebody else up. So I would think that if the Environmental Commission would ask Mike to put this topic on the discussion, to engage council in a vibrant conversation and dialogue to bring this to a head. At this point, it's just getting worse. It will create an awareness. It will be picked up by the newspaper. You may want to do your next Exit Zero piece just on bamboo. But it has to be, you have to engage, and it's the back and forth dialogue that I think is necessary and long overdue. Environmental has not been in front of council with regards to the invasive species since 2020.
I have to agree. It's been a long time, and we're now really
Thank
kind of
you.
ready to go. If this
Yeah.
this needs a
I-
little bit more tweaking,
I
let's
think
go.
so. Like I said, you know, we know, like council had a problem with it in 2020. And I think that the document that Chris has created is one that is likely sellable. Hopefully, we will have somebody from the commission there at the meeting as well, just to support the discussion. But
Thank you, Jeff.
I think that, yeah, we're ready to go. And the Kings will be, the Kings will be a big help.
I was just gonna say briefly, the house behind us as well on Cake Street, like they had a bamboo issue. They fixed up their house. I don't know if they recently bought or not, but I know they paid, Cape May, bamboo money to remediate, you know, what was growing so they could actually have a lawn, you know, and then also put down some sort of barrier to keep it from spreading.
There is a company called Cape May Bamboo.
But it's up like in Vineland or somewhere, it's not in Cape May.
Okay.
But they both sell, it was funny when I talked to them, they sell bamboo. You know, they sell bamboo and they sell bamboo, and they also remediate.
And then they rip it out.
But, you know, I kind of laughed at him, and his comment was that if you properly contain bamboo when you plant it, his claim, it's not an issue.
I think that's probably a myth.
I'm not going there, you can
I understand.
Well, by our backyard, you not only have to contain it below ground, you have to contain it above ground.
Right.
Because it jumps.
It jumps.
You know, I have all of these throughout my backyard. It looks like snakes coming up and
If you
down.
think of it as grass, which it is, what does
Yeah.
grass do? What does crabgrass do? What does rat tail grass do?
Yeah.
It's grass.
Thank you for your
But
input.
bigger,
That was,
yeah.
that was important because I didn't appreciate the larger issues that are involved. I was just thinking, pull out your purple loosestrife. It's not that easy.
Oh, no.
I would like to continue this discussion, a little tangent on this. And it relates to that we as a commission have the right to review plans that come before the planning board. And right now, I'm serving that role. I have a background in that, having worked on the other end and in development and working with engineers and architects. And I welcome that I'm not the only one on the commission seeing these plans. But the most recent application that came before me was for a 4-unit townhouse complex being proposed for, like behind where Big Wave Burrito used to be.
You know, crossing
right-
the Riggins.
Right across from the Riggins, there's a empty lot back there.
Oh, yes.
And the landscape plan, and we all know that that area floods. The landscape plan basically had, out of the 13 species noted, only 2 were native. The others could be considered there are some that could be considered invasive or aggressive plants, and certainly water-thirsty plants. So we have an ordinance out there. We have a recommendation to use the list by New Jersey Audubon. It's a recommendation list. There's no real enforcement happening. And, we as a commission maybe need to be a little bit more aggressive in our making suggestions to the planning board that these landscape plans be reworked or looked at again. I can pass this around. The houses that are being built on Missouri Avenue near the Fisherman's Memorial, they're all putting in not all, but there's a lot of pools being put in. They're using basically sod, and it basically is going against what we've been talking about that we need in our community. We have water problems here. I know that was part of the discussion in one of the previous meetings. But we're putting in pools and we're putting in water-thirsty lawns all over the place. We need to tackle this issue, and it's either got to be done before the plans are approved. That's it's a condition that they have to put in more drought-tolerant species and native species. We all heard in the news recently about monarch butterflies listed as endangered. We are an important migratory stopover spot for migratory birds and butterflies. It's a big part of our economy here. And we're basically creating a desert now that these species can't survive here. So I just wanted to send this around. I have a couple other things I wanted to talk about, but I'll start with those pictures. I mean, I'm sure you can drive around town and see all the new construction and see what's happening. I did speak to the city solicitor, and I said, well, that project was already approved. We kind of can't go back. But can we, as a commission, send out a letter to the new owners and say, you know, welcome to Cape May. We are an important migratory stopover for monarch butterflies and birds. Would you please consider, you know, landscaping for wildlife? Here are the resources, and make it positive. It is hard to go back and fix everything that's already happened, but it's now like an education thing. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I mean, the last review that I did for those townhouses, I denied the application based on the landscape plan. It's up to the planning board what they're going to do with our recommendations. Mike Jones did tell me in the past, when I made comments about the landscape plans, there's been favorable response. They, you know, I think the Presbyterian Church had an application for improving their parking lot, and we just made some subtle things, like instead of using boxwood and this and that, use these species instead. But again, it's an education thing, and we've got to start getting the word out there about the importance of Cape May, what it means. I know there was talk about becoming a Bird City USA. I think there's something called that. I mean, there's Tree City. I think there's one, Bird City. I mean, it's all the new people that are coming into town and building, they need to know what makes Cape May so special, and part of that is that. Oh, you're also going to see some other things I'm including here, which I may actually, this might ruffle some feathers, no pun intended, but the new landscaping that was done at Convention Hall, which it was my understanding when they put in they were redoing some of the sidewalks and the bike station there, that they re-landscaped and that they were going to do native plants. They didn't. It's not. I know the garden club helped with that planting. It looks lovely, but it's not native plants. It's all things that are going to require a lot of watering. It's mainly annuals, which means that it's going to have to be redone all the time. The hollies that were put in there are not native hollies. They took out a couple of plants that were native and that were good. So we have a chance, like in our public spaces, to be setting the right example. Harborview Park is another place that years ago was proposed to be this showcase, and it's really not being taken care of the way we could. We could get in there and really make it a model for what homeowners could be doing. We're trying to do that at the Nature Center with, you know, our property is or two former homes, and we're trying to use it as a example of what you can do in the home landscape. But we need to do that elsewhere in the community. So I'll get off my soapbox.
I'd like to add to the
It's a good
soapbox.
soapbox.
But we can do that through the review of applications, kind of piecemeal, one thing at a time here. But I think what we need to do, and I know that there's many grants out there with the Environmental Commission we can apply for. We need to start educating our residents and a lot of new homeowners about what's so important here, and you know, use our backyards and our front yards as an example of what makes this a special place in the world, really.
Gretchen, I'd like to thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And Mike, thank you for going forth with Chris and trying to figure out these problems. But I have to say, as I've said, over these past 35, 40 years, sitting here, that we do not have a Mr. King with us. We do not have a Mr. Feinberg with us. We do not have a city planner with us. If we were another board, we would have immediate results because of the legal advice we would get and the suits that would happen. So I have to say that I'm somewhat upset about that crippling for this commission over the years. And I would like to see that perhaps change. You might consider that at council level, that we are just as important as the planning board, the zoning board, the HPC. And I am telling you that I think that we are equally important to all of those. Thank you.
I have to agree, and I'm fairly new here, so I don't know all the nuances and everything, but we don't have, with all of this going on, we have no authority. If HPC says, no, you can't do that, you can't do it.
That's right.
And if we say, take out your purple loosestrife and put in salvia, they don't have to. So I don't know what has to be done in order to change this commission status. But it would be a good thing. How can that change? What do we have to do in order to change it? Is this a state issue? Is this a county or local?
It's local.
It is local. Maybe we need to do some work in our spare time. Thank you.
Any comments?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Gretchen, can I ask you who's part of your committee?
I don't have a committee.
I thought, no, but I thought,
No, I've kind of reached out.
I did raise my hand, so I would be happy to join.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I have an application sitting right here.
okay.
I would like to look at them as well.
Yeah.
Okay. We
All
could,
right.
we could stay after the meeting today for a couple
I
minutes.
can't today, of course, but I
Okay.
do have, we could make a date and we
I
can do that.
actually live on Yacht Avenue
Okay.
now and pass that property every single day. And the property right across the street will also soon be in proposed development for additional townhouses. It's all impervious surface.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that like a petroleum contaminated site, though?
It's very upsetting.
Yeah, it's not a,
One
I
of,
would put a child development center there if I was, just kidding.
one of the points we need to make in all of this is that if people want to live here because of certain advantages that they have, if they keep doing this, this isn't going to be that place anymore. It's going to be a town with a lot of townhouses and pools. It's not going to be the Cape May that everybody would like to think it is. And it's happening pretty fast.
Well, or Cape May's going to turn into,
Yes, it is.
like an Ocean City.
Ocean
and
City.
With, concrete and houses and all of that. We do have wonderful open spaces, and let's just take advantage of that in a positive way. So, I don't know, any other comments? I mean, or next steps, I guess, in this. Again, we can do it through the review process, but there's a whole lot of people out there with existing properties, large lawns, that maybe through education, we can talk to them about some alternative options.
I really like the idea of creating a mailer
Yeah.
to every household. We have the money in the budget to cover that. And in that way, maybe we can reach people that don't go to the farmers markets or watch the live streams or read newspaper articles about this topic. Some people flip through the newspaper, they see something about invasives, they don't read it, they keep going. Shows up in their mail, maybe.
Well, that was, I had said, of course, which turns out to be illegal, that we just put it in everybody's mailbox. I don't, but if we mail it, then it's legal. And you know, the same thing, a kind of general education brochure that could go to everybody. And that there's a lot of interesting points that we could make. If, for example, people are planting these things and they're not here all the time, and they don't want to take care of them. Invasives or non-invasive natives are a lot easier to take care of than some of the things that they're putting in.
Mike,
Don't-
I'd
so-
just like to ask you something. Once this gets passed by council,
Right.
would you be willing to come with one of our environmental commission members to the planning board to present it, and also to, say, the zoning board, and let them be aware that we're working very hard in this capacity, and also to the HPC, to visit with these various other boards in town, and let them know that we have a new ordinance and what it really means when they look at plans too.
I would be completely open to that.
Thank you.
Without any question, I would be glad to do it. And it's a good idea.
One of the things that we can do as an education outreach, again, I would partner, the Nature Center, Cape May, would partner with the Environmental Commission on a mailing. I mean, we do 2 native plant sales a year. We are bringing in the materials here to our community to give people the option to have those things to plant. Our next one will be, in the fall, we do shrubs and trees. In the spring, we do the perennial flowers. I'm pretty sure we're going to do the fall plant sale on September 24th, which is the day before our Monarch Festival. So Monarch Festival is an education opportunity where we're talking about planting natives and the connection to the monarchs. The plant sale will be the day before, probably, and during the Monarch Fest. So I don't know, as a commission, if we can get something together soon as a mailer, we could split the cost. It helps promote what we have going on at the Nature Center. Maybe it could be a 2-part, like some information sheets by the Environmental Commission, the plant list, and kind of a statement of why, why this is important.
I don't see why we couldn't do it. We have all the materials, we just have to put them into some coherent form, and there are several people here who can write. So I think we could do it pretty easily. September 24th is more than,
We have,
what is it?
we have about a month to
Okay.
get it ready. I'm busy. I still have summer camp going on and everything. So I would need help with that.
I can
But
help
if we
write
could
it.
get a mailing package together, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I'd like to mail, and that could be expensive, multiple pieces, but maybe we simplify it and have a landing page or someplace where they can get more information. That's just one idea, and we have an opportunity now. We might as well take that opportunity.
Well, we can arrange a date and start working on it when it's convenient for you, and
Afternoons, not
it's fine with me.
any,
Those
pretty
are-
much
those-
any
okay.
afternoon.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments on the whole plant issue?
Can I just go back, and I just wanted to finish this question about this commission being able to obtain more authority. How would we have to do that?
Be elected?
Well, no, the HPC, all of these commissions are appointed, but they have authority based on ordinance and regulation. Is that right?
I'm not sure which ones you're saying.
Well, HPC.
Now, the boards have authority, of
Right.
course, but the commissions, there are advisory committees, there's commissions, and then there's boards. I'm not familiar with any one of the commissions that has that kind of control.
I just think, well, HPC, I guess, is the classic example, which is a commission, but it has authority.
We should probably start by reviewing the ANJAC guidebook, like the handbook that establishes the commissions in the state, and identifying the specific sections that allow for a greater authority for the commission, and then presenting them to council.
Yeah. And then we have to go to council. Right.
Next on the agenda item, it just says, members, please review the ANJAC News of July 13th, the article on the EPA and the U.S. Supreme Court in curbing pollution emissions.
I think Chris was going to speak to this for us.
Regarding, Mike, before you leave, I was considering contacting the water department. I decided not to because it is the busiest time of year. I thought it would be silly to call them and talk to them. And so I think maybe we can push it back into the fall.
For what,
I was going to ask someone to come out and talk about the water report.
I don't see why not.
No, but I
Busy time or
decided
not, I'd
that.
ask them to come out.
I just decided July is probably not the best time to
I mean,
talk.
if you want to wait, if you're more comfortable waiting, that's okay.
Yeah, I think
But
so.
I think, they definitely have a job to do, and I think one of them is to report to us, help us out. So I wouldn't be hesitant to ask them, but if everybody's more comfortable waiting, that's probably a benefit for them. You're right. This is a very busy time of year, and everybody's shorthanded in the city.
I know. I just look at the report, and if you're just a layman, you'd look at it and go, I don't know what this even means. So,
Right.
So anyway, thanks. I know you have to go.
Okay.
All right.
I do have to leave, I'm sorry, but like I said, just whatever you want me to be involved in, you have questions, I will watch the live stream later on today or tomorrow, and I can email, call, do whatever is needed, but I apologize for.
No.
It was a sudden change in schedule for me that I have to do.
So can I just ask then, are we agreed that this ordinance as it stands now can go to council? Or do we want to tweak it a little bit more? I'm just trying to clarify.
I'll tell you, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to go back to Chris. I'm going to ask him to fully flesh it out. He can send it around to all of us again before, but I'll still have it on. I can get it on the agenda. I would prefer to do it as a discussion item. I think it's in our best interest, but that adds 2 weeks to the whole schedule of getting this done. But it's safe, if you go to a first reading and there are amendments and changes made, it's another week again anyhow. So I'd like to give council the ability to weigh in. They don't know that this is coming, and they won't know until it's put on the agenda. And I'd like them to think about it, and we can have a good discussion. And again, hopefully, we'll have a few other people, even if there's just one member from the commission, it can be good, and I think that we can get it going forward from there. They may make changes, but I think that we can get done what we need to get done at minimum, so.
So a discussion session would then be fairly soon, when would that?
It's going to be on the 16th.
Okay.
Well, I make a motion that we move forward with discussion of introducing the invasive species ordinance.
Second it.
I'm confused as to whether it's the one that Hope worked on or whether it's.
This is the version that Evelyn and I worked on that has been improved by Chris.
Right.
Okay, so
Correct.
it's
Yeah,
gonna
it will be
what Mike
Chris's-
comes up
What
with,
Mike has now.
Which he'll send to me,
Yes.
and then I'll send out to everybody.
Yeah,
Mike,
Evelyn,
you sent out this morning.
Chris will make it look like an ordinance.
Is there a reason why English ivy isn't specifically called out?
It's on the list.
It is, but it's not.
If it's not on there, it should be.
Okay.
I know it's on the full list, but it's such a problem
It
in
is. That's a
town.
good point.
I think it should be in this opening definition.
I didn't even notice that it wasn't
right.
there. I agree.
This
I
morning,
mean,
I didn't have time.
I'm a bamboo and English ivy guy. I say, they're overtaking the city.
Yeah, they are.
Crazy. So maybe just have him add that
Yeah.
species.
Absolutely.
To the list in the,
So you
first
just
section.
English ivy or all 12 that were on the original?
I think if you add all 12 in that, you're going to get into discussions.
Well,
You say that all
can happen.
12 should be on an addendum of some sort,
Okay,
but she's right about
that's
English ivy.
that's exactly right.
I agree
That's
with.
good,
I agree with Justine on that.
like that. So I will make sure that English ivy gets on there. All right. Well, again, my
Thank you, Mike. Sixth on the agenda is a question for consideration. Should the commission initiate a self-nomination form
I
for,
think we skipped 5. Chris was going to talk to 5.
well, about the,
Yeah.
Real quick.
okay.
I contacted the Department of Interior Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. It's a relatively new bureau within the department. And I asked for an update on what's going on with the offshore wind. And apparently, BOEM, as they call themselves, has a environmental impact statement. The draft is due November 1st of this year, 2022. The final, they expect August 2023. So there will be no construction until all that process is completed. I don't know if you know, underneath National Environmental Policy Act, there's quite a complex amount of, so Atlantic Shores is the primary contractor. BOEM got involved due to the NEPA requirements, the National Environmental Policy Act. So now it started the whole environmental impact statement. And if any of you worked on EISs, as they call them, it's quite complicated. And then there's a whole public review process, there's whole comment, there's this back and forth, back and forth. I think the August 2023 final is a little aggressive. So we may not see anything to maybe 2024. There's been pushback from a couple of industries, commercial, fishing. Charlotte just brought it to my attention real quickly. I was wondering why the commercial fishery would be concerned, is that in the event of an emergency or a storm, these farms, turbine farms, could get in the way of like them egressing or exiting, coming back to port. So I guess that is a concern. That's something that has to be addressed during the EIS process. And then there's always the wealthy landowners who are like, not in my backyard, they don't want to have. But my understanding, they're going to be far enough offshore. I mean, nautical miles 7 is what the curvature of the earth is, so they're going to be at about 20 to 24 miles offshore and should not have any visual impact. So anyway, we can expect possible reports in like this November, maybe December, draft, and then I can review them. It's going to be a large document because it's going to be a lot of issues to control. Anyway, that's it. Bye.
Any other comments, though, on this curbing pollution emissions? I'm sorry, I personally didn't see this news report, or I haven't read that, but is that something that in a latest ANJAC newsletter?
You mean it was a Supreme Court ruling that the EPA doesn't have to regulate pollution coming out of energy-producing plants. You can burn all the coal you want now.
this is on the agenda. If anybody has any comments, or we can,
I thought
Table
it
it
was
for the
just a
next-
report. I don't think it made a statement or had anything definitive in it. It was just a report that was basically generalizing the Supreme Court ruling. Am I correct?
I think we need to maybe flesh this out some more and,
Yeah.
and do a little more research.
I'm wondering if there's anything,
well, I always think these things, how does that affect us? Or what can we be doing in our communities? So it might be, it's a big issue, but we can do things like making sure there's no idling allowed in certain places and that there's proper signage. So I'll just, unless anybody else has any other comments to share at this point, maybe it's something that we'll revisit.
I think it's going to go back to the states to,
right?
And that's
to-
the positive, it's not a positive, it's very sad, but there's a glimmer of hope for us living in New Jersey in that we do have some state programs being rolled out that we as a municipality can build relationships with and implement. So we hopefully will be insulated from the real fallout of this ruling, whereas other communities will not be.
Right. New Jersey is pretty good, as is New York. Pennsylvania, not so much.
Yeah.
So we will obviously be affected by what surrounds us. But New Jersey has some pretty strong regulation based on the fact that New Jersey was among the worst.
And the Energy Master Plan really does allow for a shift in how energy is generated and how plants and factories of the past will be phased out as solar is adopted more widely.
Yeah.
So it's distressing,
It is.
obviously, but
Were you going to think about a statement?
Charlotte asked that I provide a statement regarding our support of offshore wind as a commission. Put it in the minutes, Merrill, I'll get it to you. And the statement would be in the order of, we fully support the development of alternative energy sources, including offshore wind, pending the outcome of the environmental impact statement and see what results from that are. I mean, we can say, yay, that's great, but if the impact statement comes back with a lot of limitations and mitigation efforts and factors, that's why you have that process. So anyway, I'll draft up a statement, Merrill. And it's going to be,
And it's a statement to be sent where?
put it in the minutes.
Put on the record?
Okay.
Okay, so for next meeting, we'll have a,
And then we can review, how's that? We can review.
that's great.
okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm going to have to leave as well.
Okay, yeah, we just have a few minutes. Anyway, number 6 was the question for consideration, should the commission initiate a self-nomination form for residents to acknowledge the support for our environmental ordinances?
I'd like to speak to that, Gretchen.
Yes.
So, we have a chill challenge that we place, periodically in Exit 0, and we have taken every day as Earth Day in terms of the Star and Wave and the types of articles that we've written so that people know that we have ordinances in place protecting the environment in the city of Cape May. So as I was thinking about this, I looked at my neighbor one day and her clothesline was filled with beach towels. And I thought, how cool. It's solar in action. You don't even have to install anything. It's ready for us to use. So I thought if there were some folks out there who had been paying any attention to the types of articles that we've been trying to educate, if they would like to nominate themselves for an award from us, would be very happy to cite them and give them a positive pat on the back. and ask them to come to our meeting. So, with that said, I'd like to give each of you today an opportunity to have a clothesline and some clothespins so that you can be a model for your neighbors in hanging your beach towels out and having solar energy do its part for the city of Cape May.
So some of us on this commission live in a townhouse complex where it would not be permitted.
Right.
But there are racks, there are clothing racks that you can put out that may not be against your rules. Test that.
Yeah, we would have to look, I know that we're not even allowed to hang beach towels like on our back decks.
Wow.
I can put it on my chair, but I can't hang it over the
That is
parapet.
completely,
Me,
Um,
terrible.
Gretchen, you can use my yard.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we kind of put it on the chair, on the patio chair and all of that, but yeah, it's,
How sad that we're not allowed to use.
passive solar.
Exactly.
yeah.
Strange.
And I'm in the same boat, of course, because I live across the street from Gretchen.
Right. Okay.
All right, let's try to wrap things up. We're almost at the end here. The public portion, anybody from the public would like to make any additional comments? Any other comments from the commission?
I think a nomination for like a resident of the month would be great. And it could be self-nomination or, nominate a neighbor or other community member. Might motivate people, in school, students get, student of the month and they have their picture somewhere. And it might be a nice way to encourage others to just take small steps. And I don't know how we would go about doing that, but I like the idea.
Should we start with, the commission here, anyone bringing forth a nomination? And then let's just get it started.
Yeah, I have an idea.
Okay?
We'll nominate my stepfather, Randy Nuschke. He has an incredible vegetable garden in the backyard. He composts everything to feed the garden. Everything is without pesticides and fertilizers. It's incredible. It is an inspiration for the community, and he provides all of the produce to people on the block.
And he's here in Cape May? Mm-hmm. All right.
So why don't we take a picture of him with a garden? And you
Okay.
can write a really good caption.
Okay.
And then we can nominate him for August 2022
Okay.
as the Environmental Commission first.
Where do we want to put it?
Send it to the Star and Wave as a news article.
Okay.
Because it has a picture and it has a caption and they can put it someplace.
Yeah.
It's
Do
a local
Charlotte-
award.
What do we want to call this? Cape May Environmental Stewards,
I love that.
ambassadors?
I love it. Yeah.
Would you like to nominate your neighbor?
I
first,
sure will.
Since this was
Yeah,
your
this is terrific.
brainchild? Yeah, why
Yeah.
don't we do your neighbor?
But that can be another month. I mean, we don't have to do it all at once. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
January will be tough because no one's going to be outside and who's doing good things.
Well, why don't we do your neighbor because of the timing?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, we
go
Heath
next.
Road?
I think it's a good idea to have a couple, ready.
Yeah.
I would nominate Chris
Chris for
and Lee
yard.
for your yard and your,
Yeah.
I'm on the commission.
yeah, okay, I'll nominate Lee then.
She does most of the work.
All right, there you go.
Charlotte, so August is going to be who?
Well, I'll tell you when I get her,
Okay.
okay?
All
And
right.
September will be,
Randy or Randall Nuschke, Nuschke. All right, so we need to come up with the design and the caption for it.
because they always have the garden club. of the month. The Storm Wave does that.
It's great, yeah. Okay.
So if we send them a picture and a 3-line caption under it,
I have my little team of high school interns designing brochures and handouts for us too, so I can have them do this.
Do you think that we would want to do a little plaque that they put in their yard?
I think that
sweet.
takes it another step. Maybe just get it started with
Yeah.
some paper.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
cool. All
we
right.
could always print up a certificate and put it in a folder. Your girls or your
Yeah.
Yeah,
interns,
they would love to do
they
that.
would love to do that.
Great. It may not be ready then for the next month, but probably the following month, whenever. Whenever
They can
you're,
do it.
whenever you're ready.
Yeah, they can do it.
Okay, thank
right.
you, everybody.
Yep,
thank
Close
you.
the meeting. Meeting adjourned.
All right.